Uh, Hello all. I think let's get started. Let's start with I will start with my introduction. My name is Mitesh. I am part of this edtech startup company called Coding Nest. Today's meetup discussion topic is on like building REST API using that Django Rest framework. Those who are working on that Python tech stack, so they might be using like a Django or a Flask framework, and those who might be using like a Java tech stack, so they might be using that Spring Boot framework a lot. So they are using a lot of annotations to build up a endpoint, which helps us to create a REST API. Nowadays, with the advent of like moving towards based architecture, we are moving away from that monolithic architecture, and we are moving to that microservices based architecture. So there where basically your REST frameworks comes along. So today's let's see that agenda. So we'll talk about what is REST API. I think you all might be familiar about. So we basically send a request like either from a client or let's suppose from the browser. So basically this like request is basically either it's could be like a get request for retrieving the information, post request which could be like for creating or insert operation, put request which is basically for updating the information, and delete which could be a delete operation. So basically here the things which I have related, mainly I have related with a database. But like for a complete application, so nowadays we have seen like most of the times while building that application we keep our data in our databases. So here we have taken a simple example for databases, but in general the request which we normally do it is a get, put, post and delete, and we can relate it to the database. But this could be could be on any standalone applications as well. So we'll talk about this, and we will going to relate it with the request basically which we can get it from basically either from a client or a browser. Okay, what is the response which we are expected? The response which we are expected is either a JSON or a XML data format. So that's what we will going to learn a REST API. Second thing we will talk about what is MVC architecture. Nowadays, all the web frameworks, they are basically using that MVC framework. But this topic of discussion is on Django, and Django uses model, view, and template. So we'll talk about a bit difference on MVC controller. So there is a bit change here, and here we use MVT like a framework. So we will discuss what's the major difference. I think a bit slighter difference, a difference between MVC or MVT Deka framework. Okay. Then we'll talk about now. This is a complete practical implementation. So what we will going to do first. I think all need to basically use any ID. So what we will going to create? We will going to create our virtual environment. We will going to install the required dependencies. Basically for today's for building up this, we'll use this PyCharm ID to build up basically API. What is the goal? We will going to support all the endpoints for get, put, post and delete endpoint. And let's see if we can able to basically use this postman to send a request, or we're going to create a Python script Python script to basically to get a response back from our APIs which we have created. Anyone, any questions? So that's the agenda for this meetup. So it's a totally like a practical approach. So just get ready. I think we will go all along. So basically we will work whatever it's required, and we will take a help of basically virtual environment, and we'll install that pip basically all the dependencies what is required. Okay, so I think to get started, I think I have created a small deck, but just to get what is a REST API, basically we can support any of the things, but majorly we notice in applications, yeah, in applications we are using a database, but that's not basically it could be we are making any like a request. It could be an application which sends whether that order is valid or not, whether anything. So basically we have to send a response back, either it could be XML or JSON format, so it could be anything. A client, again, client could be anything, whether it's basically it's coming from other APIs, it's coming from other application, it coming from browser, it coming from anything. So we normally send a request, we normally send a request. This HTTP request could be anything. So it could be a get, it could be a post, it could be a put, it could be a delete. On the basis of it, we will going to hit the endpoints on your REST service, which is hosted on basically any like a server. And accordingly we will going to send a response. The response majorly which we sent is basically is use either a JSON or a XML like a format. So that's what we have to create. Now in an application, it could it won't be like a single basically APIs. It could be like multiple components, and you have to create a multiple basically you have to support a multiple API, multiple endpoints for different like parts in your application which you wanted to support. So means we are shifting from our monolithic part to basically to this microservices based architecture. Now let's talk about in Django. So today's we will be working on using Django. So we'll talk about what is this model view template pattern. In other like Spring Boot, we have basically MVC pattern. So MVC pattern, so model which supports ORM. ORM is object relational mapping. Then we have a view in MVC, which basically deals with that with a interface like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and there is a controller. So there is MVC. But here in Django, the design, the pattern which we have is basically is a MTV design pattern. So model view template design pattern. So let's suppose like we are sending a request, and this slash login is basically it's your endpoint. Let's suppose we are making a get request. First request will come from URL. So that's what basically in Django we call it as a URL. So we have to write a Django and sometimes a router in order to route it to a particular application. Now the difference between now difference between compared to MVC. So here views act as a controller, but there we have a different controller there. Now majorly this controller talks to this models, models like which supports ORM, which is object relational mapping layer. Now the difference is we write our object oriented code. Basically this models and model support ORM layer, which converts it into a SQL. And here basically it has a support for all the databases like a Mongo, PL SQL, Oracle, or whether basically MySQL, MariaDB. It has a good support. Even for that Redis it supports in the format of a cache. Yeah. And what we want, we basically want a response back, which is basically a result set back from this models. Again, if you notice, this views is working as basically as a controller, and here we require a template. Yeah, template, basically template will going to basically give a response back. So basically here we use a Jinja templating to basically create our basically to display our content back on the browser in the format of an HTML. So here we can integrate your jQuery, JavaScript. Here we can integrate even Bootstrap. So whatever we can, basically we can just to display the nicely. So that's what we call as a M. So model which deals with your database. View, here it is working as a controller. Controller basically through URL or router it's getting a request, it will going to route this request. So here the router will going to request on different components, and basically on the basis of it, basically either it will basically send the request to a model or to a template. So there is a one-way communication happening in a template, but there is a two-way communication happening between models. So that's what is your MVT design pattern, which Django is based on. So there are two frameworks which is in there are in fact three frameworks which is in market. Basically Django, second is a Django Rest Framework which sends a response a JSON. Third framework is Django Rest Framework which sends a response XML. So depending on your needs which we can install, but we wanted to build up a REST API, so we're going to install that Django Rest Framework. Okay, first thing to start with, we will going to basically create our virtual environment. First, virtual environment. What is that required dependencies we need to install? We will going to install that required dependencies. Maybe we will going to create a basically a project which is like hospital analysis, and components which we can create basically components could be like patients, it could be devices, let's suppose it could be a staff. So here basically we can create a multiple components over there. Now, since we don't know much, I think what we will do, we will basically create a database application. Just we will going to save something so that we can bring that models into that like a picture. So yeah, so that's what. So we're going to create a database REST API for like patients, or it could for devices and so on and so forth. So let's build up a project, first project. Okay, so those who are working on Windows like a platform, so they can still use, or those who are working on Linux. So respective of operating system, we can work it out. Okay, first and foremost, we will going to create a virtual environment. So first, let me create a simple directory. So let me know if anyone needs a pause. So we'll yeah. So we'll going to create a directory, and we will going to create a virtual environment. We'll install the required dependencies. So required dependencies. So let me write the steps as well so that everyone be in sync. So I will take a help of Sublime Text here. First, let's suppose we have to create a directory API. Second thing is we will going to create so we're going to create a virtual environment. So let's see how we can create our virtual environment. So those who already know, so Python hyphen m venv. So let's suppose my environment. Now, since all, I think those who are already using this Python tech stack, they might be have that Conda, they might be have Python. Even this is not a mandatory the step. Sometimes what happens, basically this is not in our path. Sometimes we struggle in creating this. So here I have used a relative path. Maybe you can try out absolute path as well. Some guys basically more comfortable working on that conda virtual environment. So these are totally this step is totally optional one, and we can directly install that the required dependencies there. But I want let's create a virtual environment, since might be I have all the required dependencies already installed. So I just wanted to start afresh, so that's why I created a virtual environment. So let's try. So I wanted to start this, activate this virtual environment. So here if you notice, I just started my virtual environment, and it got activated because it got prefixed with whatever that virtual environment I have given. Anytime you guys are free, just let me know if you need anything. So I have created this. Let me write this like a step so that we will be all along. So we are creating a virtual environment. So we have my environment. Third part, I have to activate this my environment. So we have scripts, and we have activated the virtual environment. Next part is I have to install the required dependencies. Now I wanted to use a framework which supports a JSON response. Then laterwards we will try out a XML response. So let's try to install. So I am trying to install it using pip. So pip install Django REST framework. So here we are trying. So by default, which comes Django REST framework, it gives it response basically like a JSON format. If we install Django REST framework XML, so basically it will send a response in XML. So I want basically in the format of a JSON format. So pip install Django REST framework. Yeah. So let's wait. I think it will going to install Django as well. Django as well. So which is required. Yeah, along with other modules, along with other modules and packages as well. Let me know if anyone has any questions. Yeah. So pip install.
Mitesh, just one question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Zoe, go ahead.
Yeah, if we just install Django and without the pre-mentioned, like in here you're installing Django REST framework, but if
Correct.
we just install Django, then what difference does it make?
Yeah, so basically, yeah, so this is a specialized framework from Django which supports REST like a framework. So they have a lot of inbuilds available since we wanted to support all the actions. So we wanted to support all the actions. Like list, retrieve, create, update, destroy. Let's suppose from the database application. So uh, just creating like a controller which provides all those things. So this can easily be created using Django REST framework. But when we use simple Django, so there you have to write all the endpoints and you have to give all the methods which will going to retrieve, list, create, update, and destroy. So that's the main advantage of using that Django REST framework, which provides a lot of inbuilds basically to manage those things.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the only advantage. Yeah, because they have created just now. I think a few years back they have come up. Where previously, we are only using that previous Django framework. Yeah. So we'll notice basically. So what are serializers? What are view sets? What are routers? Basically, yeah. So which will help us a lot, which is not there in that earlier Django framework. Yeah.
Okay, Mitesh.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So it has installed the required dependencies. So yeah, so I think that's done. Okay. I have able to install that Django REST framework. It's able to install all the required dependencies which is required. First thing which we will do, we will going to create a project. Now what is the goal which we are doing? I wanted to build a hospital, basically like a hospital hospital analysis. That's my project name. Now what we will build, we will going to have different basically endpoints. First, let's suppose patients API. Second, let's suppose a patient's API. Let's suppose again we can have a different endpoints related to COVID patients and other patients. Let's suppose medicines APIs. Let's suppose staff API. Let's suppose other this. So we can have a different basically endpoints to be created for it. So that in terms here we call it as apps. So every small thing here we call it as an app, and the bigger thing is what we call as a project. Now just if you relate it as compared to other website, if you are seeing, so every page or every tab can be considered as an app, or every minute thing which you wanted to do, we call it as an app. So but first thing which we have to start is basically creating a project. Okay. So first yeah, so we have to so we have to start with so Django admin hyphen h. So we'll take a help of this Django admin which got installed as we have installed Django REST framework, which has Django and Django framework, and this Django provides us Django admin. Yeah. So what we have to do, we have to basically start the project. So let's start the project. So let me try that part. So this is the only step which we will work in command line. Then we will just jump to that PyCharm or any ID which you are comfortable with. Yeah. So admin. So start project. Let's suppose hospital analysis. So yeah, let's see. I think just yeah. Okay, let's see where we are. Yeah, so yeah, so we here we have this hospital analysis along with this my env. So let's why not basically open this project from this like a PyCharm. So let me try that same. So this is my PyCharm file, open. Uh,
It's a APIs.
yeah, open. Yeah, let's try one more time. So the location, yeah, okay. I think it's an API. Sorry, yeah. So we have to search for API. So this is API. We have hospital analysis. Let's, yeah, okay. And attach. Yeah. So let's see like what we able to see. So everyone see on that left pane. So we have this hospital analysis, which is a main project, which consists this hospital analysis. It comes with this manage.py. So basically, whenever you create this project, basically it comes along with a few templates, basically, so in order to support different apps. So this is the setting related to a project. We'll use a lot. We will going to use a lot this settings.py. So this settings.py basically yeah settings.py. So basically this has to be depends on whether you're working on a development environment, whether you're production environment. So you make a bit changes over there. So we'll talk about the settings.py. So here we will take like all the settings related to that third party, whether it could be a database, statics, whether it's a templates and others. So we're going to define all those in the statics.py. So this plays a major role. Now currently by default, when we will going to start this application, so it will going to use this WSGI servers, so which comes only for development purpose. Later words, you might realize you wanted to shift to Apache, or you wanted to move to that Nginx. So basically you can just change that settings over here. Nowadays it is coming with this ASGI basically servers as well, which is also supported. A few ASGI servers are available which we can they can use it. Now yeah, urls plays a major like a part, as when that server is up, the first file which is automatically called is this urls.py. So there you have to define your routers, or you have to define your views. So that's how basically these other files. Manage.py basically manages the administrative task related to this Django. Why this Django comes more there? So it comes with a lot of basically inbuilds there, which can be easily been managed by themselves. So which we will see that advantage of using this. Okay, so let's try to take an advantage of this manage.py and let's create a apps. So apps, first we will take a app of patient. Second app, let's suppose I wanted to create for devices. Third app, let's suppose for medicines. But let's try to create this. Okay, so I am at this page. Let's try one more time this. Yeah, so I'm going one, yeah, hospital analysis. This is my manage.py. So let's try to create manage.py. I have to start the app. Start app. Let's suppose this is a app I wanted to support is patients API. Yeah, so patients API. Yeah, I wanted to create this app. So let's see what will happen in this case when we use a patient's API. We will notice a app is being created. App is being created. So just let's expand this one. We'll talk about what is migrations because this Django framework comes with a lot of applications which we need to migrate initially. So which we will talk about. Admin.py is more important because we don't want everything to be done by us, so we'll register our apps on using this admin.py. And Django has a nice admin feature which where we can use in order to feed the data as well. Apps.py, again, it's very important. We'll talk about this. Models, again, this is very important. There we will define our likewise we write a SQL query, we write define our table, we define this. So all those will come in the format of a classes over here. That's what we call as an object relational mapping. So it's like a ORM layer. Views is very important because this is your controller part which we will define nowadays. More latest, so whether we can use a functional approach, a class based approach, or basically we use a view set. Again, that's all depend. Writing a test is very very important since you are like a developer. Whatever you are writing, you have to test your apis as per your versions or your output. So we'll define each and every terms just to create this. Anyone any questions on this so far? So hospital analysis is my project, patients api is my app. Let me create one more devices. So devices API. So I have basically two apps available. Anyone any questions so far? Okay, first and foremost, first and foremost, let's talk about settings.py. So where the settings.py is available from under your hospital analysis, which is your project, I will start managing this settings.py. First and foremost, since you have created your first you have created your apps, you have to register those apps. So how to register those apps on your project? Let's see. So we have to make an edit in this settings.py. So let's try from pathlib import path dunder file resolve.parent.parent. What is my base directory? So base directory is my hospital analysis. Secret key is very very important. Keep the secret key use in the production secret. So basically depending on which where you are deploying, so it has to be unique for that particular environment. Yeah. Debug is equals to true. Currently we are at that basically product development stage, so we'll mark it as a true. Otherwise we'll mark it as a false false if we move to that UAT or prod environment. Allowed host, what all host to access your APIs. I want everyone to access, so let's make it this. Otherwise we can give a particular IP address. Let's suppose a local host, so 127.0.0.0.1. So in such a way we can basically give, or currently I want everyone to access, so maybe yeah dot or star. I will check. Even I am not sure, so whether it's a dot or star. Okay, let me mark dot. Now installed apps, so what all applications which it comes, basically since we are creating apps, basically we are supporting that REST API, it has to come with administrative tasks, it has to support authentication part. So this application, it comes by default. Content types, session layer, message layer, static data files, so these are all the applications which it comes by default. Now what we have to create, we have to, so whatever we have created, so let's basically like I mentioned over here, so we have created devices API, we have created patients API, and we wanted to yeah, so we wanted to support REST framework, so REST underscore framework. Please everyone try. So we did created two apps, which is devices API and the patients API. And since we wanted to make like REST framework enabled, so basically we have made this REST framework enabled. Okay. What is middleware? Middleware plays like a more important like a role, like cross-site request forgery, like this authentication, messaging middleware, X-frame options available, common middleware, session layer, security middleware. So these comes along with a lot of middlewares, but you can configure, you can make modification, or you can create your own middleware as well. Yeah. So to start with, that's very, very important. To start with, when that basically when you your server is up, first thing which it's called is basically hospital analysis urls.py. So that is the first file which it's called. Template, currently what it is, they can define. So currently backend it using Django template. If you are creating any other template, as we discussed on this, yeah, so you whatever you create in which particular directory, so you have to give that particular directory over there along with it. By default the server is started using this WSGI application. If you wanted to shift to Nginx and Apache, so you have to change this part. Currently, the database which it support is SQLite 3, but really you wanted to change it to, let's suppose, MongoDB, or you wanted to change it to PL SQL or MySQL or Oracle. So you have to give this engine name along with other details as well. Yeah, so authentication password validators. So these are the basically validation rules it uses. Yeah, minimum length password. Yeah, so and so forth. Internationalization support, basically like currently like English and like this and I-18 character. So basically you can support like other languages as well. So currently it's like English US. Yeah. Time zone by default is a UTC. Yeah. So time zone by default is a UTC. Static files is basically where you keep your videos, images, yeah, HTML content, so and so forth. So basically this is where you will basically yeah, so this is the basically path where you can basically mention your URLs in this. So this is all about your settings.py. So what are the changes we have done? We have allowed host, and we have done that installed app. So let me copy paste this so that we are on sync. Yeah. So pip installed Django Rest Framework. Fifth, we did yeah. So we created this Django admin. We have created start project. We have created hospital analysis. Sixth, what we have done, we get entered into this. Yeah. Seventh, we have created n, yeah, so we have Python, yeah, manage.py, and we have yeah, created devices API. Now the changes which we have done in settings.py, yeah, yeah, so this is the change. Yeah, so this is the changes which we have done. Okay. Anyone, any questions so far? Okay, now let's come back to this. Since there are lot many apps are available, so let's first get that migration done, so that we can start accessing whatever that basically currently installed applications available. So how to do this? So again, Python, yeah, so we'll start manage.py and migrate. So this is where we are telling basically now we have a project. There are two more apps there. So we are letting know that projects. So basically we are letting know that projects that we have now two apps available. So this is what that done by that migrate Adhika part. Anyone, any questions so far?
Can you please repeat it? The migrate.
Yeah, so migrate is since like it comes by default these many applications. We wanted to use like admin, we wanted to use authentication, sessions, message layer, static files, and now we have mentioned that three more apps. So just to let know our project that these many apps exist and we wanted to use it. So basically that's what we do normally using this migrate part. So we are letting know this Django framework that now these many applications along with that existing one, so we wanted to access. So that's what it's done by your manage.py migrate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so manage.py migrate. Let's take a move ahead. So what is the next goal? Next goal, since I wanted to create a database application, let's suppose I will start with devices. I think which comes first. Okay, so models.py. Okay, now I have seen lot of times you will see like a SQL injection, like a problem coming. Anyone knows what is SQL injection? Anyone? Uh, yeah, yeah.
Injections means querying. Are you referring or any depth?
No, no, I think, yeah. So basically, yeah. So you notice there is like in Big Basket recently. So all those like users details now it's available because of the SQL injection. Basically, they are able to get all those details available. So what is here in this particular framework? It provides that Django ORM model. I think those were not. Yeah, so Django ORM model, here we won't be writing that queries directly. So here we will be writing that Python constructs, and this Python constructs from this Django ORM will be converted into a SQL queries. So that's much better to take basically as compared to writing normal SQL queries. So let's try with this. What we will do, so we'll create yeah so we'll create uh, we'll create uh, yeah table devices API. Yeah, so models.model. So what is the link? I think first we have to see what it is. Okay, so now what is the goal? Basically, we have to create certain columns over there. And now here, yeah, so this is the link basically to create a models. So we have to basically import the models. Each and every class has to basically inherit models.model. Now you can basically define what all fields, or what all fields along with what all constraints it has to support. Now this is dender str is basically creating a two string, and how if that basically object is being created. So this object would be created by a unique, so this has to be a primary id. So let's create something in the devices API. So
These models that you are referring to, are these data models that we would be using for the device API?
yeah, so this since what is this basically API devices API will be saving everything currently what is configured is a SQLite database. We wanted
Okay.
to save these details in our database. So we're creating a very, very simple API, which is basically doing a CRUD operation from a database. Rest, if you, so we want to bring these models into picture. But if you are creating a simple API, let's suppose if that order is valid or not valid. So there it can easily be done by your controller part. I just wanted to bring these models into the picture which deals with the database. So we have
Okay.
selected a app which supports this. So devices API will become a table, and device name basically it will become your column name over there. Now how to support basically that remaining part, that normalization, whether it's a primary key, what are the constraints available, so which we will define it over here along with its data type. So I want device device name, it has to be a character. Now yeah, so let's suppose max length 100. I wanted to make this yeah, null is equals to true. Now there is a one unique like a part is, if you do not create a primary key over there in Django REST framework, since it requires a primary key, if you do not create it, it will going to create a primary key for it. Or if you want, you can basically create a primary key by using a proper yeah here. So you can define a proper parameters which will going to create a unique primary key for it. But let's not create. Let's see how that Django manages it. So we have a device name. So let's suppose, let's give a device code. The device name, it could be a simple oncology machine. It could be a X-ray machine. It could be a scanner. It could be anything there. So like models again dot char field. Let's suppose max length. It's like a small code like 3, and let's suppose yeah, let's suppose null again equals to true. Let's also define a price field as well. Yeah, so price field as well. So this time this is integer field. Yeah, and here we do not require any other. Yeah, it's always good to create basically it always good to create a basically a two-string method which will represents each and every record set or record set value over there. So let's see. So define. So we are creating a two-string method. What we will going to return, let's suppose self dot device code. Yeah. So let's concatenate with yeah, and plus let's me add yeah, and self dot device name. So yeah, device code colon single space device they can name. So let's suppose I've added one name over there and one code over there. So that particular row will be represented by a code and a name, code and a name. So that will I will make sure that that will be a unique. So that that's how basically I can easily able to represent a particular row. Okay, now we are able to create that like a models part. Now I haven't inserted the values. First thing, first thing is how to convert this into a SQL queries. That's the first thing. But how to insert the values? So we will take the advantage of this admin.py. So in admin.py, we will register this particular model. So let's try that part. So from dot models import yeah, devices API. Let's register this admin.site dot register, and we have to register this. Now, why we are doing this? Basically, I wanted to take the help of this admin to insert some of the values over there. Rest I can do it with the command line as well. Now I have that models available. I wanted to convert these into a SQL queries. Let's see how we can do it. Second thing is I will take an advantage of this admin which comes with Django in order to insert the values over there. So let's see it's working or not. So let's see how we can do it. So again, we will go back to this. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So we have this. Yeah. So we have this. Yeah. So devices API. So let's see how we have to do. Python manage.py. We have to do make migration, make migrations, make migrations, and we will mention devices API. Let me know if anyone has any questions. So why we are doing this make migrations? I wanted to convert this basically Python representation into a SQL query. That's what is your ORM layer. So Python manage.py make migration devices API. Okay, let's see what it has created. Under devices API, it has created a folder called migrations and it has created this .py file. Let's try that part. So under devices API, yeah, so you will notice a .py file being created. So here you will notice, yeah, so it has able to convert. So what are the fields ID? So it is able to add it as a primary key. This is auto generated. Yeah, serialize, we cannot serialize verbose. Yeah, verbosity, verbose name, which is ID. So it has already added a new field ID, and these are the fields which we have defined. Now we have defined this, we have created a make migration. Now since it's there already, that migrations are available, we have to migrate it. We have to migrate it. So let's try that part. So Python manage.py migrate. Let me know if anyone has any questions. And all the migrations they get done, it will check is there any change happen. No change happen, only one changes happen from that previous one, and it's able to implement this. So that's what that migration done. So now what we have done, what we have done. So by this step, so you will notice, since we are using it's a SQLite 3, SQLite 3. So it's able to create a schema into this particular table. So if let's suppose if it is like a MySQL or it's an Oracle, so you can open that MySQL console or your Oracle console and you can find that schema being created over there. Okay. Next, part so far, we are able to create a schema rather than using that console for your MySQL or Oracle. So let's try to fill it using that admin which is provided by this Django. That's the best feature. That's the best feature to use it. Let's try that part. First, we have to we have to create a super user. So Python manage.py create super user. I think just last step before starting up a server, create a super like a user. So I wanted to basically access that admin console. For that, we are basically creating that super user. Python manage.py create super user. Username leave blank to use admin. So let's make it an admin. Give that email address. Give your email address. Password, give any valid password. So this will going to check basically all those like minimum 8, one capital, one alphanumeric, one special character, and all those. Once this is done, so basically we are able to create that user details in order to access that admin. Yeah. So far we have done. So where we are. So where we are. So we have created models.py. We have created a schema like a part. We have registered to this admin like a admin this API devices.api. So the table which we have like a written. I wanted to I wanted to basically insert some values, but before inserting, let's make us a start of that server. So again, uh, so we'll take a help of this Python manage.py, uh, manage.py and run server. So it uses hospital analysis dot settings. By default, it going to call that urls.py file available, and it's able to start that server at this particular host, local host at this port number 8000, which is by default. If you wanted to change a host name and port, which we can easily do it at this particular step. So we can give a host name as well as port. So whatever you wanted to start with. Think, let's start this. Let's see. So we have, yeah. So let me try. So invalid host, you may need to add, let me see what it is. So I will go to settings.py dot, let's use star. Let's see if it works. Yeah, so this is working. Yeah. Okay. So if this is the first time, please everyone try this. Let me know if you are able to see this. This. So we are able to start the server, Django server. This is my host name or IP address, and this is my port 8000. Now where we have to go, like by default, which comes admin. I think see this part. This is admin already available. So let's use this admin. So I'm using the endpoint admin. So it has able to open this Django administration console. So there are lot many advantages which we will see in order to manage the users, in order to manage the groups, in order to manage everything. So this can be used. Yeah. So let's try. What is that username admin? Yeah. Give that password. Yeah. So here you will notice what are the groups available, what are the users available, yeah, what are the users available, devices APIs, yeah. So devices API, since this nothing is available, so devices API, add device API, add device API, device name, device code. Let's suppose it's device code X-ray 1, like X-ray 1. Price, let's suppose it's an integral integer field, let's suppose 10,000. Save and add another, let's suppose add another, uh, oncology 1. Yeah, oncology 1. Price, let's suppose yeah, 50,000. Save and add another. Yeah, now you will notice two record sets available. Please everyone try, let me know if anyone has any questions on this. So we are able to create we are able to create this devices API, devices API using this models.py on SQLite. We are able to create a schema using this admin console. We are able to fill two record sets over there. Now which is what is remaining, defining this controller, which is very important. This is what we call as a views, like a part, but important is how to send the data, which is more important. So we have to create a serializers. Let me know if anyone has any questions. I think I'm able to create this so far. Let me share you this like a link. So this is a good link. So this will give us a good way to create a basically object relational like a model. So it will give you how to basically insert the values even from basically command line option which comes by default. So let me share you this URL. Now, next thing which we will going to learn is serialization. Now, serializers is very, very important. So what is the goal? Serializers allows the complex data such as query set. Our case, this is a query set, and model instances to be converted to the native Python data type that can then easily be rendered into JSON or XML format. So what is the goal? So we'll take a help of a serializers. Data is already available into database. So how to basically send the data? Yeah, so serializers allow the complex data such as query set, which is available, and model instances to be converted into native Python data type, so which can be easily rendered into JSON or XML adhika format. So here we will take a help of this model serializer. So model serializer, it's very easy. So it uses some kind of a meta classes. Those who already know in Python. So Python uses a lot of meta classes while creating this class, while creating any class. So class will going to create a serializer, uh, which will be inherited from serializers to a dot model serializer. We're going to define a like a local inbuilt meta class. Will define what is basically yeah, so what is basically model name, and what all fields from the record set means your columns you wanted to serialize. So whether you wanted to serialize just id, for our case, yeah, so for id for our case, or you wanted to serialize device name, or you want to serialize device code, or you want to serialize the price. So there are a lot many options are available this, or if you wanted to serialize all of them, again this is also the options available there for this. So let's try to create a serializers. Okay, so on my the app devices API, there is no file called serializers.py. So let's create that serializers.py. So what is the goal? Already the data is available on your record set, and we wanted to convert it into a Python's APIs so that which can easily be transformed into a XML or JSON format. So let's see. First, we have to convert it into a serialize using a serializers. So I am using a serializers.py. Let me know if anyone has any questions. From the devices API, that's my app. I did created a new file called serializers.py. I wanted to convert this models.py record set, result set back to that Python native data type. So which can easily be rendered into XML or JSON format. Okay, so we are almost there. Two or three things I think before we can make complete and running. Yeah. So I think let's try. So from REST underscore framework, we wanted to import serializers. Yeah. Yeah, from dot models. Yeah, relative import. Import. So what is that class name? Devices API. Let's create a class called device serialize. Sorry. So it has to be upper camel case serializer, which will inherit from serializers dot model serializer. Yeah. Now, as so we are taking really help of this documentation, which is more important. So we have to create a class called meta. So class called meta. We have to define our model name. So my model name is devices API. What all fields I wanted to define, since we want all of them. So is there any options available for all of them? Yes. So there is an option for all of them. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the simplest way. What is the goal? We will going to convert all of the columns or all of the fields from that record set, and we will going to serialize into a Python code. So that's the done by that serialization. Let me know if anyone has any questions. So this is your models.py. We have device name, we have device code, we have price along with ID. And I wanted to serialize this. So we did created a yeah, let me share you this code for serializers.py. So far action, what we have done, we have created models.py. We have enabled admins.py, where we have inserted the record set, serializers helping me to convert again result set back to that Python data types, so that which can easily be rendered back to JSON or XML format. Now, what is the action which we have to define is the views controller part. So what is remaining? Views, URLs. So that's the only two things which are remaining. We don't require template. We don't require because we won't be displaying it. So views will going to return a request and response. Yeah. So let's use this part. Let me know if anyone is everyone on the same page. Okay, next Adhika part is let's create a views. But in Django REST framework, it comes with a nice feature called view set. So view set, this is more important, but let's see what it is the purpose. After routing has determined which controller to use for a request, your controller is responsible for making sense of the request and producing this appropriate output. So what is the goal? We will going to get a request from the URLs, and this controller, which is this view, which will be responsible for routing the request. But this time we will be routing the request to basically to our this serializers. Okay. Now, Django REST frameworks allows you to combine the logic of a set of related views in a simple class called a view set. Now, this is very, very important. In normal Django, we write a class-based views or a simple function. But what is this view set? It's a class. It's just a class-based view that does not provide any method handler such as dot get and post, but instead they provides a few methods like list, create. So this list basically we will going to use basically yeah, so this list basically we will going to use for basically for get request. Create, basically we will going to use it for post request, like update, destroy. So lot many things are available from there. So let's see how we can use this. Again, here we will try with the better one, model view set. Okay, now what is the required uh, query set, uh, uh, like model dot objects dot all. Here we will going to get all the, so this is equivalent to query like select star from table name. Yeah, and we will going to mention a serializer class. Basically, what is my serializer class? Since it will easily able to what is the field which you wanted to basically return, means like what all fields you wanted to return. So that's why we will going to mention a account serializer. So let's try to create a view set. Okay, now views are available. We won't be using this like which is a controller. We are creating a class based views. So we will be creating a new file called view sets. Like I'm not touching this views. I am using this view set. I will be creating a class based views. So how to, yeah, so let's try. So from REST framework, import, yeah, view sets. What are my models? Models, import. Then what is my serializers? Yeah, so from serializers import. Yeah, so what we need? Yeah, so device serializer. Now, what is the goal? Basically, this views is very, very important stage, because here this class, simple class, will going to return a lot many methods. like list, retrieve, create, update, destroy. If you're using a normal Django, there you have to define all the methods over there. But this is very very handy, which will do a lot of actions, Adhika, for us. So let's do this part. So let me copy paste. Yeah, let's create a class called device view set. Now we will be using view sets dot model view set. And let me copy paste that part. So here it is my devices API, and here it is my device serializer. Yeah. Now what is the this part? This is very very important. Here the request will going to come from basically URLs, and what it will going to provide, it will going to provide a list method, it will going to provide a retrieve method, it will going to provide a create method, which will be used for post request. This will be update method, and destroy method, which will be used by your delete call. That's a more advantage, like as compared to normal views. Anyone, any questions on this? Let me share you this code. So this is your view set. Now let's see where we are. So we have created models. We have used admin to enter that to fill that record set. We have created a serializers, and now we have written a view sets. Only thing is, uh, only thing is, so here we'll be using a postman to send a request, but request has to be routed using that URLs. So URLs or routers. So routers, now, since we'll be writing a lot of endpoints, one for that patients, one for devices, so it's good. I think let's use a routers as well. So let's see a router. So through router, basically, we will going to send a request to this basically device view set. Only two py files are remaining: routers and URLs. So let's create a router. Now, thing is, so we are able to complete this app. Now the request will going to come from project. From project, my project name is hospital analysis. So there is a file called urls.py. Normally through urls.py we will going to call this basically we will normally call this view set. But what we will have, since we will have a lot many there, so we will going to manage, and better to manage is we normally create a routers. So let's create a routers. I think is there, routers. So what is this routers? Resource routing allows you to quickly declare all the common routes for a given resourceful controllers. So basically this is really helping us to create a router. Some web frameworks such as Rails provides functionality for automatically determining how the URLs for an application should be mapped to the logic. REST framework adds supports for automatic URL routing to the Django, and it provides a very simple and quick, consistent way of writing your view logic to the set of the URLs. So here we have to map a view sets with the URL. So that's the main goal for this basically routers. So let's try to create a router.py. So this will go into your project. Let me know if anyone has any questions. So we have router.py, router.py. Let's write from uh, devices API dot view sets. We wanted to import device view set. From rest underscore framework, we have to import routers. What is my router? Router is equals to routers dot uh, and we'll be using default router. So let's see what is a default router. Yeah. So the purpose is a default router. This default router, it's easily help me to map this get, post, put, patch, delete method to the methods which is provided by that view sets. So we need to register those. So let's see how we can register. So we have a router dot, we have to register, and what we have to register, uh, yeah. So what we have to register, devices API, yeah, and we have to register device view set, or let's mark devices. Yeah, so this is the additional endpoint which we are providing. So we will go like 127.0.01 colon 8000, then API, then devices. When we will going to call this devices endpoint, so basically view set will be called. This view set will going to provide all the get, post, put, and delete operations. Let me know if anyone has any questions. Routers.py. Only last py file, which is URLs. Under URLs, you have to map this router. Let me share you this code. Last urls.py. So we did models, view set, serializer, admin. We have created routers. We made modification in settings.py. Now urls.py. Okay, on urls.py, so we have to create, we have to use a router. We will use yeah, uh, router, import routers, import router. Okay, now we have, yeah, by default it's admin, admin it's already configured. So let's configure API. So API, so when we use API, include path, include. So we have to, yeah, so we have to use router dot URLs. So let's see how we will start. So when that server will going to start, so we'll hit this API. This API will go to this router dot URLs, router dot URLs. This router dot URLs, basically we will go to this devices. Going ahead, we will have patients on that devices. It's linked to this view set. This view set is providing all the calls available, hope so this should they can work. So this is the code for your urls.py. Anyone any questions so far? Now how the flow will happen, so we'll send a postman a request. Either it could be a browser, either it could be a script. First, it will go to the urls.py. From URLs, it will go to this routers. From routers, it will go to this view set. View sets will go to this serializer. Serializer will go to this basically models, and models basically models. Yeah. So this is how that the flow will happen. Now almost the code is done. Only thing is we have to test out this whether it's working, or we have to write some unit test cases for it. Okay, let's see, is this, yeah, so this is already working for me. Yeah, even control, yeah, control break. We'll see. Again, we can restart. Yeah, so this is totally working for me. So let me hit this URL. Yeah. So when you hit that URL, basically there are two options, whether you wanted to go to this admin as per your URLs, whether you wanted to go to this admin or whether you wanted to go with this API. So let me go with an API. API. When you go to this API, yeah. So when you go to this API, so the default basic route view for default router. So basically, yeah, so you have two options available. Whether you wanted to go devices, that's the only configured, but later words we will going to go with a patients. Yeah. So next request, it will go to this router. Router has devices. So let me hit the devices. When you are using a basically a browser, the request goes like a get request. So devices. So if you notice, I have sent a get request, and what is the result? We are able to fetch what all devices are inserted. So there are two devices are inserted. One basically device related to an X-ray, and second device is related to an oncology. Let me know if this is working. So we are able to get a get request. Now, normally, if you notice, get request is basically it's a retrieve there. So this retrieve method is provided by your view set. View set. So view set provides a retrieve method. This get request calls this, and it retrieves all the basically, yeah, it retrieves all the basically devices. If you wanted to retrieve only one, yeah, so you can retrieve one device as well by giving this. Yeah, so if you notice, the endpoint is correctly working. And even if you notice, what is the response which we are getting? The response is in the JSON format. A code which we are getting is 200. Even if you notice, when you scroll down, so there is an option to basically to send a post request, to send a post request. So post request is for sending the post adhika request. I think let's add one more. So we have X-ray. Yeah, so let's use device code. Let's thermal thermometer. So thermal thermometer. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, what is the price? Let's suppose it's 25. Yeah, post. So I'm able to post, I'm able to post, but let's see it's worked or not. Yeah, again, I'm sending a get request. So you can notice basically through post request, I have basically created or inserted a new entry over there. So this basically is mapped with that particular method, create the method. So create method, which is provided by the view set. So this is totally working fine for me. Please everyone try. Let me know if this is working at your end. So we are able to do that simple get request, post request. We can try that postman as well. Yeah. So let's try postman. Yeah, so we have 8,000. Yeah, so we wanted to send a post request to, yeah, devices, params, yeah, what is in header, content type, application JSON, what is, yeah, so what is that we have to send. So just we can copy paste from here. ID, let's make it 4. Let's suppose a new X-ray machine, X-ray 2, device name, X-ray 2, price, let's suppose 25,000. Yeah, it's in raw format and we can send. Yeah, status code is 201. We can check this out. Yeah, so what we can do, we can again send the get request. We can notice here. So this is totally working fine. Let me know if anyone has any question on this. So we send a post request. The params, yeah. So only changes header. In header, the content type, application Java. On body, we have taken that basically a dictionary with a key and a value pair. Send, we should get a response as 201. Or we can use here as well. Anyone, any queries? Yeah, just I think reminder. So today's this video will be available under this like a YouTube channel codingness. So we'll upload this video. So maybe you can watch this videos laterwards. We have few other videos from the last year meetup. So maybe you can also watch those last year meetup videos as well. Okay, last thing which is last thing which is remaining is how to create a test cases. Most of the times we forget to create the test cases. Now, in other companies or some companies, I think whatever you are creating, so basically they always ask to create the test cases. Now, test cases plays a major role. Here you can test the output from different versions of your API. You can test the output of your get request, post request. You can look for what is the output which we are getting. You can also look for that status code available, or you can also look for the response content available, so and so forth. So basically all those things you can work it out. But let's try if we can create a simple this. I wanted to check for devices, so I will be writing some test cases under this test.py. So let me write a simple, there, test cases. I think there is also good. I think I am able to find this. Yeah. So from Django Rest Framework, there is a good link available for creating this, which you can maybe follow this. Yeah. Uh, so what we can do, we can look for a get. I think those who already comfortable with this, we normally use a lot of asserts call, asserts call, asserts call. We basically compare whether the two values are equal or not. So we are getting a get, we'll get a response. Whatever it responds, that data, this is matching with this, and we are looking for assert equal. If it is, then only basically it will that the test case will going to get other pass. Yeah, so this is for the responses. Majorly we can also look for the codes as well. So let's try this like a part just to create this. I think it's a one of the good you are I think to go with it. Okay, I think let's create this last file just to write the test cases. Okay, so from yeah, so REST framework, uh, we have to import. Just let me see that request client. Yeah, dot test. We have to import. Yeah, request like a client. Yeah, so there now uh, we have to create a client. We have to get a response. We have to get a response. This time our URL. Yeah, so this time our URL. So that's done. So what we are looking for? Let's use assert call response dot status code. We are looking for whether it's 200 or not. So let's try with this. So we have written a simple code. We have sent a get request. Whatever the responses come, we are looking for its status like a code, status code. Or if you're looking for that a response content as well, I think let's take one devices one. Let's take this URL and we'll basically check this value is coming or not. So let's try that part. So response is equals to client dot get. Yeah, and we have to let's see what is the response is coming. So response dot uh, response dot content. Okay, so let's see if it works. Then we will apply a assert over there. Okay, let's see if it's working or not. So this is a complete independent code. So here we can execute using this PyCharm. So right click test.py. Okay. So Django.core.exception improperly configured requested setting read, but settings are not configured. You must either define the environment variable Django settings module or call. Okay, now let me try. Let me see if it's work or not. Import os dot environ dot set default. Yeah. Okay, what is my name? Hospital analysis. Hospital analysis dot settings. Yeah, so this is totally working fine. So let's see. Apps are not loaded yet. So let me load the apps as well. So import Django, Django dot setup. Yeah, yeah. So this is like a working nice. So we got the request in the format of byte, and we can compare, and we can again call that assert option. Currently, we have looked for 200, but let's look for 400. Yeah, assertion error. So this is totally working fine. So let me share you the code. So in this, we have basically looked for that status code. In this case, basically we have looked for response code. The response is coming in the like byte. So basically we can write assert and we can basically whatever that value we are expecting. So we can basically compare both the values and again write that assert call over there. So let me share you this code. So this is for your unit test case test.py. And those who are working on this, basically everyone has to basically write the test cases for whatever that apps they are supporting. Let me know if anyone has any questions. So in today's meetup, we have covered end to end there. So we got basically this get or post request either from a browser or a postman. We first have hit that URLs, which is defined in that settings. Then it we have given to that routers will going to manage it, basically router will going to manage it basically for different endpoints like devices, patients, and so on and so forth. Accordingly, we will going to call this view set basically will going to give that list retrieve create update destroy method, so which is helping us here. What all values we wanted to display, this is what it is given by serializers is all depends on basically this is a database APIs. So basically all the fields from this database, what all the record sets are available, so that's how it is. So that's the complete flow of creating a simple REST API using that Django REST framework. Currently the responses is basically JSON, but it could be a XML adeka format as well, XML format as well. So there is another framework available, so that's Django REST framework hyphen XML. Yeah. So currently what we have installed pip install Django REST framework, which provides JSON support if we wanted to go with an XML response. So here we have to install pip install Django REST framework hyphen XML. There are some renderers also available, which helps us to basically give the responses both together. I think let me share you the link. This is what we call as a renderers, which will give you both JSON and XML response together. And yeah, this is your Django framework. One last thing which I can't able to show, I think, which is more important, setting nginx. Basically, if you wanted to really move it to that basically to the development environment. So currently we have started those servers on our current box, but we wanted to really move it to that production. So there we use nginx, or we use basically Apache, Tomcat. So this is the simple, I think, to go with it. Anyone, any questions? So that's all the agenda I wanted to cover. Anyone, any questions? Zoheb, Ankit.
No, Mithun.
Yeah,
So, sorry, just one. Now,
yeah,
since we have exposed the endpoints here,
correct.
what is the framework that we can use if I want to create a web app basis on which would be utilizing these endpoints? What is the framework that we need to use? Is it any framework that can be used, or is it Django only
No, no, no.
that needs
Uh,
to be used?
See, only the purpose as we started with, we are moving from monolithic application to a microservices based architecture.
Correct.
Current my app only supports like devices API now, which can only be hit by using this URL,
Right.
like so like slash API slash devices. But going ahead, we will going to have that for patients, we will have for this. But important is how to get that request. So this request can be done, as I mentioned, it can be done through the browser, it can be done to the postman, it can be done to the scripts, it can be done from any of the languages available. Only thing is we have to write the client which can send a request to this server, and this server will going to response a JSON format. So you have to have a client which sends a request and which has a handling capability to handle those responses which is coming from this basically server. So
Okay.
you can have any app, you can have any app, you can have any code, you can have any client which basically can have talk with this particular server at this port using this endpoint. So we are good to go.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Did that actually answer your question?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, coding next. Sorry, I joined in a bit late. Can you introduce yourself again? Because I'm just sort of trying to gauge like where you come from and all.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. So my name is Mitesh. Yeah. So we are part of this SAP Ventures team. I think let me stop.